what we raised were a whole bunch of issues which there was already fairly broad agreement on within the room. And I'd just like to highlight a couple of them now. We had a certain amount, and it was only a certain amount, this wasn't huge, of dissatisfaction with some of the federations that you work with some of the governing bodies. The suggestion was that a number of them had allowed themselves to grow, fertilized, if you like, by the media, but then become rather arrogant and cut themselves off from the media, cut access off, and cut the players off from the media. That's an interesting one, and it's something that we've seen way beyond the borders of Malaysia. This idea that all of a sudden you help something grow, but all of a sudden they get too big for it is very common wherever you go in the world. There was a view that players need to understand, that athletes, the real talent, everywhere you go in sport, need to understand the media a lot better, and that maybe it's worth their managers and their federations investing a little bit in a degree of training to make athletes not look at the media as an enemy, but as a very positive friend. The media is something that can help an athlete develop their career. It's a mutual, symbiotic relationship at its best, but somewhere along the line it tends to fall down a little. One of the other key points, and all these things I think are very much related, to come out of this morning, was there was a suggestion from one of the chaps on the tables over there, was that in Malaysia, governing bodies are not necessarily professionally competent and professionally organised. This isn't their fault, it's just the way it is. They're at a stage in their own development, the whole nation is in a stage in its development where you wouldn't necessarily expect that to be the case. But I will just ask you this question. If there is money available, if you were a sponsor brand, would it be worthwhile investing in Malaysian sport at that level to make sure that they have the money to up the level, to invest in a level of professionalism for some full-time executives, some full-time PR people to improve the way that they handle the media? Because my contention is, and I put it to you to consider, that there is a virtuous circle at work here. You have a sports governing body, a sports federation, which may be struggling in lots of ways. One of the ways they're likely to be struggling, in fact, one of the ways we know that they're struggling, is in raising finance through sponsorship. One of the ways you get to raise finance through sponsorship is to have people in communications, in marketing, who are professional, who know how to present, who know how to continually talk and to communicate with the media in a positive way. My contention is that if there was investment, possibly even from the government in the first instance, to help the sports governing bodies of Malaysia to become more professional, it would actually kickstart this virtuous circle, that the media would be happier, that the governing bodies would be happier, and the sponsors that they would inevitably be able to attract would also be happier. We heard this morning also that public relations, where it exists, possibly needs to be a little bit more even-handed, and, I hate to say it, slightly more professional in the way it goes about its job. I think there was even one suggestion, if I heard this correctly, that PR practitioners should be licensed, which is possibly a little is a little extreme, but it's one to take on board. There seems also to be a frustration that in what is a genuinely cosmopolitan sports environment, where we've just been hearing about the fantastic interest, not just in what has now become the BPL, it's the English Premier League, come on chaps, the Barclays Premier League, okay. We have to say Barclays because we're trained by our sponsors to say it in full the whole time. The Barclays Premier League, but also in La Liga and in Bundesliga, as we've just been hearing. Look at your newspapers, they are incredibly cosmopolitan, and I think a sense from one or two people